Good morning, and welcome to Your Business in Digital. I am super excited to be here today. Oh, it's going to be such an awesome show. Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm pumped.
Excellent.
Good morning. So good to see everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend.
Good morning. Good morning. Always good to be here. It's Monday morning. It's October. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. All right, let's kick to the intro. Good morning, and welcome to Your Business in Digital. I am Tamara Molui. I am super excited to be here today because we are having such a great conversation. Today, we are talking about analytics, decoding those analytics, and getting to actionable insights. It's going to be a jam-packed show. So let me tell you a little bit about Your Business in Digital. I'm always excited to be here because of my amazing co-hosts. What we do is we bring together a true small business, right? Of course, we have Andrea Ragu, finance in the building. We have a CFO here who is validating all our digital marketing and our digital marketing efforts. We, of course, have Miss Michelle Gordon in the building who is talking about sales, pricing, leading us down that path of making sure that we're charging the right amount and we understand how to move through digital to get to that sale, that conversion. And of course, we have Mr. Michael Wilshire who talks to us about operations, process, making the engine move. And I am here talking to you about marketing. And then we like to pull it all together so that we're looking at how can we really impact your business goals, right? How do we get you to that point where you're saying, digital helped me increase my revenue by 10%, by 20% year over year. So let me tell you how you can connect with us. You can connect with us in a few different places. You can connect with us on YouTube. Definitely follow us there. We are live on YouTube. We're also live on LinkedIn. So check us out there. If not, check us out everywhere podcasts are found. We are on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We are everywhere podcasts are found. So definitely check the show out. I want you to tell a CEO about the show. I want you to tell a CFO about the show. Tell a business executive about the show. Tell a small business owner about the show. We really help you get to that place of money in the bank. How do I use digital and my digital marketing efforts to really increase my business goals, increase my revenue? Again, you want to be in that place where you can go to your CFO and say, digital helped me increase my revenue by 10%, by 20% year over year. So definitely tell people about this show. Yay! All right, so we have a jam-packed show, so we're moving on along. So we are going to move on to our hot topics segment. That was a mouthful. So today, what are we talking about? We're talking about Southwest. Michelle, is this you?
It is me. It is me this morning. Yes, we are talking about an American-based airline, Southwest Airlines, who's known for a couple of things. They've been in business for about 50 years, but they have been known in the United States as one of the more budget-friendly airlines that has disrupted the space that they're in a while ago with their two bags fly free. But one of the things that they're trying to do now is make a change, and they are coming out with bold moves in 2025 that is going to yet again disrupt the marketplace in a couple of different ways. And what I love about today's hot topic is it actually is going to work well with what we have as our Beyond the Like segment today. But what we're talking about is Southwest did this huge effort where they pulled in customer feedback and did a deep dive into their data and decided that it was time to really lean forward hard into what their clients were asking for and to make a number of key changes based upon that feedback to move their business forward and to do what we speak about here as in expanding their business model. Now, one of the major things that they're going to do is in over 80% of the customers that they start feedback from is clients say that they are seeking assigned seating. Now, this was really big with not only existing clients, but those clients, those customers that left them to go to another airline, and that was 86% of them, said that assigned seating was one of the key factors for that reason. Now, the second thing that they're looking to do, and if you don't mind moving to the next place, is that extra leg room. They're wanting to not just sit in the exit seats that we all are know as premium seating because of the extra leg room, but they're going to change 1/3 of their seats across all of their fleet to have that extra leg room to accommodate those that are seeking that extra space. And if you move on to the next slide, one of the other things that they're attempting to do is to expand. This is going to work for their clients, but also in their business model by moving into the red flight arena. So they're going to have overnight flights, expanding their services to 24 hours a day, and that's going to allow them to have a greater market reach. It's going to help them to optimize their usage of their aircrafts and to also improve their revenues. Now, one of the things that we keep this in mind, and as we begin leaning into why is that important, one of the things that Southwest is trying to do, and one of the things they made certain to tell their investors as they were moving into this space, is that their overall eyes are on maintaining and meeting their core goals, but improving that customer satisfaction and expanding their client base. All of that should sound familiar to us here in our small business community, because we are always talking about that here in the YBID space. Now, Michelle, what does that mean for me as a small business owner when we're talking about in our world, Southwest is a Goliath because they have multiple millions of dollars of business? Well, the lessons here for us is to not walk into how we're working our business in from a feeling space. We want to embrace the data and we want to gain customer feedback. It's imperative for the health of our business that we look at the black and white, and to listen to what our customers are saying is important to them in what they're trying to accomplish. The second thing is to seek and reach the untapped markets that are available to us. One of the examples Southwest showed is that they're going into overnight flights. They're expanding and moving into markets that exist, but in time zones that and travel times that they weren't in before, but many clients were there already. So they are going to have overnight flights that map across the United States in order for them to not only reach that market, but to increase their revenue. Now, let's move into the next one. What I enjoy about one of the things Southwest is doing is we talk about that here in YBID all the time, and I mentioned this with my Lanyard clients, is how can we expand and upgrade our service or upsell something to improve our service model and to improve our revenues. Southwest is doing this by actually offering expanded seating for greater legroom or assigned seating. And that's a pay for play type of model. So for an incremental cost, they're going to allow improve their service model, but also improve their revenue. And for our last two, they are using, and this is really key, and I'm sure Andrea is going to love this piece, is that they're using their existing assets to get a lot of this done. Them moving into the red-eye flights, the overnight flights, is almost a no-brainer for them because the plane was sitting in these very locations overnight. They were in what we would foresee as a rest mode. They're just sitting there parked and ready and waiting for the next flight, the first flight that takes off in the morning. So what they're doing instead is they're just utilizing the asset that's just sitting there in the space that they're paying for already. And the biggest piece is, what's your differentiator? They're showing their lanyard. There's something extra yet again by being a market disruptor. They're 50 years in, 50 years old, but they're still finding, new ways to come to the market to not only listen to the client, but to be very competitive in a highly, highly competitive market space. So they're basically saying to the Delta Airlines of the world and the American Airlines of the world, and even Alaska Airlines that is more West Coast, watch out. I've been paying attention. We're coming after your customer base. And more importantly, your customer wants us. So we are meeting the needs and we're listening to our clients. And in two additional ways, just to add another a bonus here, they have also decided to improve their Wi-Fi and have NC plugs, and they're talking about going international. So they're going to have a partnership with Icelandia, and they're eventually going to start going to some international markets as well. So Southwest is here for the long haul. They're saying that I'm here and planning for longevity. I'm listening to my clients, and I'm going to have a more efficient business model by maintaining these things. So I think for small businesses, it was relevant to our conversation, what we speak about here all the time in Your Business in Digital.
I love so many things about that. The fact that, again, they're using assets that were already there. They're like reinventing themselves. And I mean, this is just like a great story. They're like, how do we really maximize what we have and push the envelope with still more opportunity internationally? I mean, like invest in Southwest.
Correct. It's crazy. I was like, ooh, this is a good story, a really, really good story.
I like the fact that they're approaching their growth in a very scalable manner. They're not just jumping into something head first without taking the necessary steps. So they started first with data, what the customer said they'd like to see, and they're doing very specific things. Of course, yes, I love the point of using the existing assets because it means from an investment standpoint, they didn't have to inject too much money into new infrastructure to do what you're already doing. You already have the plane. Let's just see how we could use the plane a little bit more so that we could make more money, as opposed to saying, well, let's buy 10 new planes to go into new markets, right? They're not doing that. I guess it's the equivalent of when shampoo and conditioner started putting rinse and repeat on their bottle, right? It's the same product. I'm just getting you to do it more. So I love this approach. It seems very sustainable, and they're approaching it in a very scalable manner.
Yes, definitely a great hot topic, Michelle. Thank you for that. I think what stood out to me is just the start of it. They started with the data. They started with looking at, what was the data telling them? Because, of course, you said Southwest has been around a long time. So they've probably in their history looked at doing this at periods of, previously from time to time. And this time they're saying, well, use the data, use what customers are telling us, and then they will continue to track that. So that gives them their metric going forward, right? Are customers still satisfied? Is it still the same level of satisfaction? Has the satisfaction score indeed gone up now with this new movement? So I just love that it started with, they used the data.
Oh, and let me tell you one thing that the data told them not to do. And they listened, because that also made the news at one point. Southwest Airlines has the thing where they say bags fly free. So you may have two checked bags up to 50 pounds that fly, and there is no additional charge. Well, someone within the organization wanted to begin charging, and that would be on par with every other airline. Let's face it, here, at least in the United States, it would have lined up with it. And there was a moment that was huge within their customer base that said, absolutely not. We will begin choosing someone else if you begin adding fees for us to have bags. So they said, okay, fine. We won't charge for bags. We will keep that where bags fly free. However, we are going to listen to what customers are saying, and we are going for assigned seatings. And many a family actually found that to be really, really attractive. And people like me, I fly them fairly often. And I would be okay with an assigned seat. I would be fine with it. And they modeled it out as well. So from an operations standpoint, Michael, I thought about you as I was reading a couple of components on this. They did live actions to see how the onboarding process would work, because it's very different from what they're accustomed to. So they did pay to understand that, and they did over 8 million simulations of the onboarding component to understand the various ways that would work with it, because they have it's like a cattle call almost in how they onboard people and getting people through really quickly. They only board like a half an hour in advance versus other airlines that'll do 45 minutes in advance of the flight time. So they did over 8 million simulations to ensure that they would be capable of doing that, and it wouldn't cost them more money to board and meet on boarding and flight times to make that happen. I thought that was really interesting.
That was a great hot topic. That's a great hot topic. And I love it because it really rolls right into our next segment, which is our Go Beyond the Like segment. I love that. All right. So today we are talking about analytics, and we're talking about how to really make sure that analytics are, how we turning the analytics into those actionable insights, right? So it's analytics decoded, turning data into actionable insights. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation because we've been really doing some work to talk about what do these actions look like, right? What are these actions that we take? What are the data points? What is it all? So many things. So one of the things we want to talk about today is some true data points that we have, and we have been working on this event called Caribbean Sun Feast, right? So Caribbean Sun Feast is a Caribbean food pop-up that Monovan Digital has been doing in collaboration with Chef Jamrock Eats from Chef Shauna from Jamrock Eats. So this has been an awesome Caribbean food pop-up. It has been bringing Caribbean food to the Lake Nona area in Orlando because there is a little bit of a gap in Caribbean food. Well, actually, there's no Caribbean food in Lake Nona. So we recognize that, and her and I kind of partnered together. I do the marketing for it, and then she does all the cooking, right? Not that I can't cook, but she's definitely like a chef. So she says I cook to eat. She cooks to I don't know, tantalize people, because I'm like, everything she makes, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So anyway, so this Caribbean food pop-up, so that's how it kind of started, right? We wanted to be in a space where we were really looking to see how could we attract this new market. And so we started off by, we talked about it a little bit here before, but to get into the detail, we started off by running Facebook ads. So we did a few things. We pulled a campaign together. So we talked about a campaign, I think like two shows ago or something like that. Definitely go back and check that out. But we talked about, we looked at pulling together a landing page. We knew that we were going to run social media advertising on Facebook and Instagram. We knew that we wanted to have a place where people could pre-order. So we created a customer journey that moved people from the place of ads all the way to landing page, all the way to pre-ordering. So it was a great customer journey. We loved it. Michael and I worked on it. We thought it through. We had emails to let them know where to come, all this good stuff. So that's kind of the gist of how we got to that place with Caribbean Sun Feast. So in the end, we have some analytics that we can absolutely share. And so this is where the conversation gets really good. What we were able to see is that we were able to see over 2 weeks of running ads. We were able to reach about 6,000 people, over 6,000 accounts. We had a strong click-through rate of about 7%, right? That's the average click-through rate. And that we looked at that against the benchmarks, right? So the benchmarks are probably like 5%. So we were looking at industry standards and we were already doing better. And then we saw the average time on site, say it was about 4 minutes. And then we saw a click-through rate to the pre-order, and that was about 10%. So that's some of the analytics that we have from the digital side, right? So the click-through to pre-order was also a strong number, right? So I know I said a lot there. But we want to kind of take all these elements and break that down just a little bit, right? So and of course you guys jump in at any point in time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just setting that foundation and talking about the audience. So the target audience for us was people of Caribbean diaspora who live in the Lake Nona area, as well as foodies who have tasted and love Caribbean food. And so that's how we looked at really setting up the target audience. And so getting to that place of reaching over 6,000 people means that these people engage engaged with the ad. They saw the ad. We had about maybe 60 people save the ad and about 30 people share the ad. So the numbers were really, really high when we looked at it. So we were able to reach the right audience. We know they were foodies. We know that they loved Caribbean food, and we saw this high level of engagement with them just from the ad standpoint. So I'm going to pass it over to the team to jump in, dissect, ask questions, go from there.
I loved how you broke down who you were seeking first, and those that were in the diaspora, those foodies. But I also read into this, and you were also it reached the Caribbean curious, you know, who's curious about the food and intrigued by it, because that is something that is seems to be relevant in the Lake Nona area, where there's a multitude of different types of food. It's not a vanilla type of environment. There's a lot of international type places that seem to be, or a variety, I should say, that's in the area, not just fast food. Put it that way. The when you're putting up the statistics, because I love those, especially from a sales and market, sales perspective and a pricing perspective, that 10% click-through rate. I'm just saying that's a nice number. You walked in, it's not just cold, that they're coming through and really giving you great indication of are you going in the right direction? And from a sales place, that is really important to understand. Do I need to shift a little bit, or am I really hitting the right target with the right words and the right messaging to invite them into the space, to make them want more and to bring them along the sales journey? So I enjoyed that piece of it.
I have a question. I want to make sure I understand, and for the audience to really understand as well. The word reach, audience reach. What is the definition of somebody having been reached? Is it an action, or is it just sight, having seen the ad? Let's kind of clear up. When you say you've reached 6,000, what was that?
So yes, absolutely. So they all have taken some type of engagement with the content, right? They have been engaged with the content in some which way. So they may have scrolled, they may have clicked on the ad, they may have shared the ad. So there are different levels of reach. Sometimes you're on your phone and you see an ad and you don't really move away from it right away. That's considered reach as well, right? So that's considered reach. But then there's the level of sharing, it's considered reach. Then there's the level of clicking, all right? The click-through says that they're clicking through. So reach is definitely someone took a bit of action on that ad to say there was interest there. They didn't just get rid of it. They didn't just scroll past it. There was a little bit of engagement with it. So we can consider that reach to be brand awareness, right? If we're looking at it from that standpoint. I didn't give impressions because we would have had more people get impressions, which is really, I might have seen a billboard experience. Did I see it? Did I not see it? So reach is a little bit more, right? So the impression is more of a billboard experience. This is more of a, they saw something and they did something, may have hovered over it a little bit. So I would say that is the lowest common denominator of action is probably I hovered over it a bit.
Hovered over it.
Right. But then there's the shares. I stayed a little bit longer because we can also tie that back to the ad was a video. So the average viewership time of the ad. So I didn't go into all of that because that's a lot of minutia for what we're trying to do. But we can look to see, did people watch the 30-second ad 40% of the way, 75% of the way? I said 40. I think it's 100%. 80% or 75%, something along those lines. So you can actually get those metrics to see how far have they followed and watched the ad. Right? So
I like that. So it means that they must have taken some sort of positive action.
Yes.
Because I think it's important that, because we're going to be using these terms in the show, and we use it on the show all the time, words like reach and impressions. I want business owners to understand, if somebody tells you about audience reach, this is what we're talking. We're talking about people that actually took a step. So it's not really a bot. It's somebody actually taking a step. Yeah.
Step to say, so that also tells us, okay, great, there's that reach. And then of course, the next side is click-through rate. So I'm going to pass it over to Michael to add to that.
Yes, that all important click-through rate. So, in this case, it was understanding that when they click through from the ad to our landing page, and then when they click through from there to purchase a ticket, at least to the platform which they could get the ticket, it's saying to us that they're checking, they're verifying, right? I'm seeing a menu I like, I'm seeing items I like. I want to, verify that this is for real. So sending them then to a payment platform that looks a certain way that, echoes what they saw before, again, builds our trust. And this is an event because, as we said, this was a pop-up, right? And pop-ups are something we do. So that happens in the business world. You can have a pop-up. So there's that question in everybody's mind. Is this something real? Is this something, worth going? Who's putting this on, et cetera, et cetera? I don't want to get food poisoning, et cetera, et cetera. So there's these levels. That CTR says there's an engagement that we definitely caught their eye. It's looking good. Let me go and, continue down, verifying, looking at what else is there that they're saying.
100%. So yes, no one wants to get food poisoning. But we saw the verification, right? So, all right, moving on to the next point. Well, this is, you started to talk about it. So the click-through rate. So the the average click-through rate was about 7%, right? So we kind of understand that. I think for food, the average click-through rate is anywhere from 3 to 5% on Instagram and Facebook advertising. So we also saw that we had a strong click-through rate. So what did that tell us? That told us that we did not need to change the ad. We didn't need to do anything to change the ad. The ad was actually working. We were reaching these many people, and then more than the average, right, or the industry standard, industry benchmark, were actually clicking through to get to our landing page. So we, as we started to get nervous, because we'll tell more of the story. As we started to look at things, I was like, I need to fix something, and I'm like, well, what do I want to fix? And then I'm like, Michael, do I need to fix the ad? Do I need to do something? And we're like, well, no. Reach click-through rate is telling us this is good. So the actionable insight here is that these are not things you need to solve for, right? And sometimes in our minds, we try to fix the thing that we feel comfortable with, right? We're like, I can change the creative, but this is our third time running it. And we've actually been running the same creative. We just change it out. So we've been running the same creative. So we understand that there's something appealing there, right? Big food pictures, highlight the food, draw people in, and the click-through rate has consistently gone up. So it tells us in this moment that this is a good thing. This is a good number. This is where we need to be. People are engaged and they were coming into the landing page. I'm going to pass it over to Michael to start us off on that one.
Yeah, so again, looking at those clicks, right? And you've got to keep in mind, we're just going to go back to the start of, the level set. Our goal was to drive pre-orders, right? So that's the goal. We have a pop-up event. Our goal is not just to sell, but to pre-order, right? So looking at those clicks on that landing page, so we understood, okay, the ad, we were good, nothing needed to change. And then on the landing page, we started to understand, okay, listen, they were clicking not just out to the menu, to the ticket site, they were clicking on the videos, of which we had 2 review videos. We had a video of the location where the event would be held. So we saw a lot of interaction with that. So it told us that, again, people are that level of verification. Is this somewhere I want to go? What does this place look like? Where is it, right? If I'm not familiar with the place. So it all showed that, it verified first that the content was doing what it needed to do, which was allow them that verification step, show them that this is above board, good place, good timing, everything. And that click-through rate definitely said that we were doing the right thing with our copy at that point. It's hard not to go forward in the story, right? But I'm going to hold it there. So up to this point, we are going well, right? Our ad is running. We're reaching the right people. We're seeing the right type of engagement as far as clicks on our landing page. And I'll pass it over to Michelle or Andrea for other insights or questions.
I feel like we are in a series, where I'm anticipating and impatiently awaiting hearing the next part of the story. Honestly, this is what it is from a sales perspective. And I like a couple of things that you said for our community that's listening here. And as you are working with a sales team, a digital team, a marketing team that's setting some things up, some things that Michael and Tamara said that are important that I want you to think of as you're thinking of your sales journey is they level set. Here is what our goal is. So we're always going back to center, no matter what happens in the story. Remember, as Michael said, the order was to set things up for pre-orders. So what the click-through rate, we've talked about that a couple of times. From a seller's perspective, I'm looking through what is the point of measurement that is guiding me to ensure that I'm on the right track, that we're going there. In the know, like, trust factor, can we even get them to click so that I can tell somebody something about my business? And they're giving me the good vibes on that yes, people are opening. They're also watching. We buy with our eyes. So the video component from a selling perspective, I think is key and dead on spot, because we buy with our eyes, even when it's food. We need to see something that's attractive, because while we'll eventually taste, but if it doesn't visually look appealing to us, and the place that we're going, is it going to have the right vibe? When Michael is saying they're looking at the location, so that's part of the know and the like. Is it in a trusting space? And the other piece that I find that's so interesting on it, that's your FAQ. That you're providing in the know, like, trust factor of the sales cycle. So you're taking them and you're moving them along. And as we talked about in one of the previous shows and last season, you're inviting them into a house. And when they open the front door, before they even get into the front door, is drive appeal, the curb appeal appealing. Those are the things that you're finding in the know, like, trust factor that you're introducing them to. And are they going to drive up and do literally what I did when I was looking at a place to stay? I drove up and didn't like anything that we saw and just kept on driving through. Or are you introducing them in and saying, oh no, I'll keep going. Let me pull into the driveway. Let me walk through the door. And I think that's what you're saying has been working, because as they keep watching more and more of the video. That's what, from a selling perspective, you're on the right track and you're hearing the right things, so that the community that you're trying to attract is engaging in the proper place, and you're getting closer to the yes, you're getting closer to the pre-order.
And as a CFO, what I'm hearing is that the decisions that we made or that we paid for previously are starting to work. We haven't reached a sale as yet. So if you're a CFO listening and you're thinking, well, what does a click-through rate tell me? It doesn't tell me I've made the sale, but it tells me that they've started to like what I've said and they'd like to learn more. So it's likely that they are going to convert, but they need to take the next step. So if you're at this stage in your campaign and you're looking at the analytics, you're looking at it and saying, this is a positive direction. Click-through rates mean that people are starting to get engaged, and it says that the decisions that you made before in terms of how you set up the initial audience, what parameters you were using, that it's starting to bear some fruit. So no panic yet. We're in the right direction. The money is not being wasted. It's working.
I love that she said no panic yet.
Right. No panic yet. So we're telling you the story. We're trying to just be like, okay, kumbaya. But let me just let you know, I started to panic. Right. So the emotion always takes over in the marketing. But the great thing is that you kind of have the data points to set you back in line. Right. So the next thing we started to look at is they click through. So we started to look at that time on site. Right. So gauging that intent. That time on site was crazy because it was about 4 to 5 minutes. So it was about 4 minutes, anywhere between 4 and 5 minutes people were spending on time on this landing page. So what do we have on the landing page? On this most recent landing page, so again, this is our third one. So we figured out some things. We had a video from the chef inviting people to place their order, telling them what she was cooking, her using her Jamaican accent, really making people feel like, hey, welcome to the Caribbean. We had the food, the menu laid out. We had videos, testimonial videos from people that ate the last time. So we did those, we had those there. And then we had a video of the location And we had videos below that of people who were eating at the location at the time. We also had some logos for some of our sponsors, and then we had a contact form down at the bottom. Usually my number is there, so we would put, I think we put my number later on. So usually it was there, so we took the number off this time, and then later on we had to put it back. So the landing page was something rich with the chef, right? The food, who's going to be cooking the food. So there's this introduction to who's going to be cooking the food. There's now people verifying, right? They ate the food and they liked the food. So we're very food focused, right? In our customer journey, because in our bubble, we're like, it's about the food. So interestingly enough, we start realizing, well, the video at the bottom of the location is actually getting most of the views, right? So the location is getting most of the views. And we're also now selling lunch, which is pickup, and dinner, which is eat-in. So we're saying it's casual dining, lunch pickup, dinner. So that's kind of how the landing page plays out. And again, people are spending about 4 minutes, anywhere between 4 to 5 minutes on the landing page. And about, I want to say in the 2 weeks, about 1,000 people came over to the landing page, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that number, Mike, right? It was
Nope,
about
you're
1,000.
good. Mm-hmm.
So 1,000 people came over to spend that 4 minutes, or between 4 to 5 minutes on the landing page. So ask me questions, say things.
So before the questions, so we're going to keep just chirping in here. We still haven't gotten a pre-sale, right? So this is why we are decoding in stages, right? Looking at different points. So at this point, no pre-sale yet. So we're looking at this time on site, and then you've got to think about this. It's a menu. So how long do I expect people to take reading a menu and deciding to buy? Have they passed that threshold? And if so, why? So what did it tell us? It said to us that because it was slightly on the high side for a landing page that's just a menu and offers you an option to buy or not, it said to us that most likely what that meant is I'm doing cross verification. Hey, have you seen this? Where you run across to your coworker and you're like, bring them to your desk. Or you like, I opened it and I'm going to come back and look at it again because I did see something I like, but I don't have the time right now. Because of course, as marketers, we feel we always get you at the right time. We actually don't. And I'm going to come back and look at it. And that explained that high time on page, as well as, the high exits. The other metric that tied it was the exits per page, which we knew were going out to the platform for them to buy a ticket. So we knew they were moving in the right direction, but we're still a little on edge because no pre-orders yet. Go for it, Andrea, Michelle, comments, questions.
It's utterly fascinating to me in a couple of ways because buying cycle. It is in the ask. The ask was commit to me, marry me. It is essentially what we're saying in advance, and you're new to me. Are we speed dating and marrying right away? Like we're eloping, we're going to Vegas, so we're doing all of that. And in the food space where you may typically just confirm a reservation. That's a very soft commitment. I'm there, but I can cancel. I don't have to sign on the dotted line. I'm not giving away my house. I'm not, doing a bunch of these things. But the pre-order, it seems a bit more of a commitment. So not that there isn't the intent, there just needs to be a bit more thought behind it. Am I going with my friend? Is my schedule still free for me to make it over at a specific time? I'm leaning into a bit more of other things, but I'm just trying to think of the multitude of things that we're dealing with now, especially in some other spaces where that pre-commitment is required. And that's what, to me, the translation table is for where I'm seeing something similar in that, like I just went to a doctor's office where we normally just book an appointment and you have the ability to cancel later. Oh no, they're sending me a message now and saying you cancel within a certain time or without a certain time, like there's a fee that's attached to it. So there could be, I think, in the sales cycle, a bit longer in that commitment because there are a couple of other components that are reliant upon before they can commit to you for a pre-order. So I can almost see the panic attack that you were having, that why aren't they doing it? All of these other measures are saying that it's correct. They're clicking through all of the places. They like us because they're in here for almost a whole video time. Why are you not ordering? So I can see from a sales perspective being lost in why you aren't saying you want me. I can so see it.
Yes, 100%. I'm like, what? Order? What's happening? What? It's like, and so in my mind, I want to go back and fix. I was like, just kill it and let's start over. Go ahead.
I'm reminded of a line from a movie. I can't remember the movie right now, but it says, "Why don't you love me?" Right? So at this point in time, that's probably what is going through your mind. And I'm glad that Michelle spoke before me, because yes, as a finance person listening to this, I'm like, well, where's my pre-orders, yo? Where's the pre-orders that marketing promised me to make this deal go through? If you're a finance person, that's what you're hearing. That's what I heard. I'm like, okay, at this point in time, I should have had pre-orders that will allow me to kind of further green light this project, because that's what we said, right? We're going to get pre-orders. The whole idea behind getting pre-orders is, of course, to get the commitment, but also to get some sort of money, get some sort of financing going for this project, for this event. So at this point in time, yes, I still don't see a pre-order in sight. So as the CFO, I need what Michelle just said. I need somebody to come and explain, well, can you explain why, even though, they clicked through the ad, which means that they liked it, they're spending 4 minutes on the page, explain to me why I couldn't get a pre-order. So if you're a CFO or business owner, and this is a analytic that you're looking at, you need the salesperson to guide you to understand, well, here's why. You're now looking at behavior. You're now looking at a consumer behavior that's impacting your analytic. So yes, the number says this, but you need some understanding of the behavior to tie the two together, to say, well, the reason why they like you, but they're having a little problem committing. And then you can take the action, which I'm sure is where we're going to go in the next line in this series, right? So yeah, I'm waiting with bated breath. Tell me, how did we go forward after this? I have no pre-orders. What's next?
So, well, let me just add a little insult to injury here. In the first two, we got pre-orders. So this is the third one, and we have no pre-orders. So in the first two, so we understand that we can get pre-orders. Just to make the story a little bit better.
Right. So at this point, I'm going, what did we do different this time? How come in the first two, I was able to get pre-orders, and now I'm here in the third one? I should be a pro at this by now, and I don't have it. So yeah, I like that you clarified that.
So what we did different is we focused in more. I fine-tuned the ads by using all the Caribbean diaspora information, as well as then saying, also, I'm looking at foodies, right? I wanted them to have something in common, and that was the foodie element of it, right? So that was what was different. And yeah, so there we are, no pre-orders. So there's the next thing here. So conversions, what prevented pre-orders, right? So we've been saying that, right? We've been saying that the whole time. We really have been looking for pre-orders for getting the right time on site. So despite getting all this engagement, we didn't understand why. So when people started to come, I started to get calls that day. I started to get calls that day for the lunchtime buy. And then I started to ask people, hey, so around like 11, I think I'm on with Michael, and already nervous as to be like, okay, I'm like, this is either going to be, he's like, everyone is going to show up, or I'm like, oh, no one's going to show up. So I started getting calls, and it's like, hey, can we still order? And it's like, hey, can we still order? So one guy says to me, Oh, yeah, I saw your ad the last time. I was out of town. I saved it and I saw it again. Is it too late to pre-order? So I'm like, no, for lunch, absolutely not. So we open up lunch a little bit and we start getting the day of, we start getting orders coming in for lunchtime, right? So I'm like, okay, this is very different. I get a few calls, and people come and they buy lunch. Then people just start kind of coming up to the rooftop and like, hey, you're still selling? Are you still? So we end up with lunch sales, and they kind of happen pre-order-ish, right? So, but what we start hearing is people had seen the other ads before. They wanted to verify. They were interested. They had other things going on. Life was happening to them, and they may not have been able to actually come to the event. So, the other thing is that the event is on a Friday. So for lunch, the idea is to focus on people within the area who work from home and the businesses within the area. And then the evening time is where you do the dinner, right? So that's a caveat there. So dinner time, when people got here, so dinner time, we started to get more orders coming in. So we're like, okay, this is moving. So as people are ordering, when they come and we talk to them, they're like, yeah, we wanted to verify. We wanted to come see the rooftop. And that's the other thing we determined. When people got there, they were like, oh my gosh, this rooftop is amazing. So people wanted to verify and connect with us first to make sure we were legitimate. Everything was legitimate because this was new to them. And they were almost like, there's been no Caribbean food in this area. What is happening, right? Is this real? Is this for real? So, and a lot of other people had started to follow the chef and connect with her. So they were, over the last 3 set of ads, they were already connecting with her. So they were building their brand awareness, and they were being nurtured and waiting for that moment when they could buy, right? So there was a lot of, we wanted to get to know you. I saw it. I wasn't in town by the time I got back, and here I am now. So we started to get those orders coming in. Well, it gets a little bit better. We actually get so many orders. My phone is like ringing nonstop. People are like, I'm downstairs, didn't buy, blah, blah, blah. They come upstairs, they buy. People are just like popping up. We're like, okay, great. So we sell out. Ads, we were supposed to run till 9. At 8:30, people texted for me to come and get them. And I was just like, hey, if you didn't pre-order, we make sure we had all our pre-orders taken care of. We're sold out. And it was like a sellout situation. So what we learned is that people were very highly engaged. They wanted to come, but they needed to build a relationship. They had other things going on. And now that we verified who they are and they verified who we are, they're like, yes, we're here. We can do it. So the other thing too is that everyone who purchased from us, we also got their email address. So we now have a way to connect to those people so we can send them emails to say, hey, you know about it first. So we still have more, but just think about that. So I'm going to pass it over to you guys.
Yeah, this was definitely the nail biting time, before the event, but we were confident that the data said that people would show up. So going back a little bit to this landing page, and we had pre-orders before, so it was not an unrealistic expectation by any stretch. We'd seen pre-orders. We were looking to increase the number of pre-orders. So some changes we identified that we made, that we had to kind of go back and add back to that landing page. So one thing we didn't catch the first time around was the importance of having a contact number. We had a contact form of which some people did use and send us questions, but people obviously preferred a faster route of making a phone call. So putting a contact number back onto the page absolutely gave us a little bit of a sense of what was happening where we couldn't, in those places that we could not see, right? And to answer those questions like, are people coming? And as soon as the number went in, we started to understand, okay, that's something that needs to be there for now, at least in the next couple of events. That's an important piece of the landing page. We also started to understand, again, based on getting that customer feedback, right? Remember Hot Topic, remember everything that we were talking about, getting that all-important customer feedback, that the customers were looking at it as a casual dining experience first. And a casual dining experience does not denote urgency to pre-order, pre-book, etc. It means I come when I am ready and I'll have a good time, right? So we also learned that there wasn't enough of a sense of urgency to pre-order to the customer, or anything that indicated to them that if you pre-ordered, if you did not pre-order, you would miss out. It was a nice place to come. It was great food that was on offer, and they decided, oh yeah, we will show up, and we just had to wait to see that happen.
I, you know, this could really be a good series. I mean, the mystery behind all of this is really, really, really interesting. There are a couple of things that struck me from a sales perspective as you were speaking on a couple of things. One, it's quite personal, and I get where the trust factor comes in when you're speaking about Caribbean food as a native New Orleanian that now has lived on the East Coast and the West Coast. I do not believe anyone when they say that they have, authentic New Orleans food. I don't believe it. Been there, done that. It's watered down. It doesn't taste right. I don't believe you. Like, so show me somebody that's been from Louisiana that is validating that your food is real New Orleans food. So I get why are you sure you're Caribbean? Is this real Caribbean food? Are you acting like it and you water it down for these poor Americans? I mean, let's be real, because that's what it is. Because sometimes it changes, so they want to validate. The food component of it as well, but and then the location. Michael, that's something that I had a light bulb moment too when T said Friday. When I think Friday, I go into Michelle mode where it's go as the day comes. My schedule is a little looser. I'm a bit more laid back. But talk about me Monday through Thursday. I'm a scheduled kind of person. So is the informality of it too, weighing in and understanding what that means. How does that factor into the sales journey? And is it going to be more last minute, or can you rely upon more pre-orders or the buy earlier factor? And how do we communicate that to the rest of our team, the operations team, so that they can fulfill and be prepared for some last minute? Or do we have a firm cutoff at a certain number that at do or die at this time, can I be flexible and pivot and accommodate what happens? And then how do I tell my CFO, yeah, that's not going to happen until later? And we might not learn until day of, and then we might not learn until 2 hours before or in the hour for the hour. So anticipate the buying cycle. This is our buying cycle now, and next week that might change as well, depending what's going on in the area. So the flexibility and understanding and learning the buying cycle as time moves along, and the persona of the person that's coming through, because we're now on a Friday. And what does that mean? And the ability to have that go viral, or the dependency. Can we rely upon this being the same in the weeks moving forward, or the next events for Sunfeast moving forward? Here's the new buying cycle that we're dealing with now, based upon our history of 4. I think that's really interesting that you're now mentally ready to get something different than what you have for pre-orders. It's very last minute. So there was a lot of learnings in the last one that you didn't have in the previous 3. I think that's really interesting from a buying and a sales perspective.
I just want to say quickly that the idea of putting the number and people calling, that's such a Caribbean thing. We like to, that's how we verify. I need to speak to a human, right? We take longer. That's why digital things here in the Caribbean, I could speak more specifically for Trinidad. But, we, as much as you have website stuff and you might have all these, bots and stuff, we prefer, I want to speak to somebody. I want to make sure that this is real. And I just felt that I so identified with that whole, well, today is the day, let me pick up the phone and call and see if this thing's still going on, yes? And I'll see if I could go. That's just how we are. And I love how the data, I love that the behavior, I guess, or the data supported the behavior, whichever one, chicken and egg scenario, but that you're able to glean that insight. What I take away from it is, well, that's the behavior of Caribbean people. That's how we verify things. We need to pick up the phone and call and make sure that this thing is still happening, rather than click and put in our information beforehand.
Exactly. That's a great point, Andre. It is a cultural trait for sure. And I mean, up to this point, of course, looking at the data, we had to get a decision of, do we run the event or not? So we want to just to go backwards a little bit. We went through the event. The point of the pre-orders is because, of course, you want to make sure you're catering enough, right? Your wastage is minimum. So how many orders do we prepare for? But then now we're in a situation of, do we actually have the event? And we absolutely were confident that we saw enough data to say, no, go ahead with the event, right? It was not a fully shelved event. The interaction was high, the click-through rates were high. We understood that the data told us that it indicated, I should say, it didn't tell us, but it indicated that people would show up the day of the event. So that gave us that go, no go decision. And we went forward, and yes, absolutely 100% sold out.
Thank God.
One of the other things from that I'd be curious about, because from a sales perspective, I find the selling out and telling them we're sold out as opportunity, I guess is the best way. One, because it's the FOMO, like, oh man, my lack of decision making earlier made me miss out on this great thing. Two, we sold out. Oh, this is for real. This is for real. They sold out. This was not a thing. I showed up hoping to get in. They said, thank you, appreciate you, see you next time. And three, I have encountered a couple of places here on the West Coast where I've seen this a couple of times, where they're like, yeah, we're open until we sell out, and we're going to sell out. So you better get here early. And that creates a demand where people will arrive early, they will commit earlier. So I'm enjoying that, and it'd be interesting to see how that plays out for Sunfeast for the future events, because there is a great selling component in your ABC. You were selling in the midst of that, and not, you probably didn't realize that you were selling, and that was a selling point when you say, great that you showed up, I'm sorry, we're sold out.
Well, so it is a selling point now, because it's going to
Mhm.
be, the empty pots are going to be in the ad going forward, right? Saying we sold out. The chef's message is going to say, don't forget we sold out the last time. We're going to be like, hey, last time we sold out. So we understand that it is a selling point, a key selling point for us. So we achieved our goal. We sold out. We also set ourselves with a limit, understanding that, hey, we didn't really have the numbers. We kind of knew what we had to sell and what we were going to be eating for the next 3 days if we didn't sell it out. But the other thing that I want to mention that happened too is that we learned something about the messaging. So we had some key lessons, right? For us, we understood that people went home to change on a Friday evening to come to the rooftop. The rooftop was really important to them. That location was important, right? They looked nice when they got here. They did the girls' night out. They did the couples' night out. So it was this thing of the rooftop. They stood and they looked over the rooftop. They were like, oh my God, it's so amazing here. So they really loved the rooftop. And so we've been selling lunch and dinner in this, but with the rooftop experience. So we've been diluting our message as well, because we needed to sell lunch separately and we needed to sell dinner separately, because the landing page just speaks to the dinner experience, not to a lunch pickup experience. So seeing that, so Michael's like, as I'm like, shut it down, take everything down and start over. He's like, okay, this is what this means. We really need to message dinner in a very different way. We need to highlight the rooftop, move that to the forefront, right? Move that. So we're going to make some changes that really speak to this now. So we've learned quite a bit from this selling out, and I'm gonna jump into before we jump into the key lessons, I think it definitely moved us down the right path. Moving from the emotional side and watching the data points was really helpful for us to say, okay, this can absolutely work. The new event is actually going to be on a Saturday. So we pigeonholed ourselves a bit into a Friday, but now we're saying, hey, Saturday can actually work. And we don't have to sell lunch or dinner. We're just from 2 to 9. We're in that space of, hey, this is kind of what it is, right? Brunch dinner. So we're now in a space where we get to sell the same thing for people who live in the community who may not have been able to attend on a Friday because the Friday may have just been a little bit harder. Right. So that's what we've gotten to with Caribbean Sun Feast. I know we're close to time, so I'm going to let everyone do their 30 seconds and then I will do the key takeaways from this. Go for it, Michelle.
I love that you were vulnerable enough to put forward this example for our community in several different ways from a selling perspective. Everything that we talk about, what is your core goal? Who are the people that you need to bring in advance? Who's your target audience and what's that messaging that you need to attach to it? T just showed a couple of examples of where they started, but where they needed to pivot and change the messaging based upon the new persona of what they were going through and the learned lessons of the buying cycle for each one of those. And that buying cycle was relevant to a number of your internal teams, the operations piece, the CFO, as you can see, when Andrea had her moment as well, and saying, well, where is my money? Me from a sales perspective, and not understanding why all of the data was showing the right points, but the sales were still not happening. So analyzing where the drop-off point may have been, or where we may have needed to tweak that message to bring those sales in. And then finally, as T was saying, in the long run, trust the process, that it will work, and with the right players at the table, operations through sales, through all of the pieces. When we're ready for the moment, we're ready to pivot, and the right professionals in the place execute so that it is a good experience for the client in the long run, lessons learned, and then we could pivot forward and then tweak and make it even better the next time around.
So what I liked about this is, as a CFO, as a finance professional, we love processes. We love things to be done in a particular order, first, second, third, fourth, because that's just how we're trained and that's how we're wired. So I like how we were able to see how the insights moved from one insight into the next, or one data point into another data point, into another data point. And the data points allowed us to make decisions without emotion. So even though we felt a particular emotion, even though as the finance professional, as a CFO, without the pre-orders, the CFO is probably going, hey, let's start to panic because we're not seeing that promised pre-order coming in. The data still allowed for a positive decision to be made, and the event still went on. So the takeaway here is always start with the data, because the data is what gives you the actionable insights. That was the whole point of us talking about this today. At the end of the day, the data is what allows you to say, take this next step or don't take this next step. And it takes away the feeling, it takes away the anxiety, because you're doing it based on a number, and you're doing it based on something that says this is what should happen or this is what shouldn't happen. So I really liked this whole conversation. I liked how it flowed because, again, we're process oriented people. We like to see things done in a particular order that makes sense. And I think this was really insightful. And I want business owners and CFOs to take away the fact that always start with the data, because the data is what allows you to make better decisions.
Great point, great point. And my last 30 seconds is, when you're running campaigns, be aware that the campaign performance is not linear. You're going to learn over time, and it takes optimization and ongoing optimization to get it to where you want it to produce on a regular and consistent basis. We hope we've given you here a demonstration of a campaign in motion, as we like to say, marketing in motion, and hope that you're able to understand, whether you're doing a campaign in-house or you've outsourced an agency, what kind of expectations you can have in terms of how they read the metrics, how they interpret the data, and how they make changes to better make the campaign perform to optimal standard.
Oh, all right. I love that. So I'm going to do the quick key takeaways. So here are some takeaways from this conversation today, right? Key takeaway number one: Data tells you what people care about. Don't assume, analyze behavior to adjust your messaging. Number two, if people engage with unexpected elements like location instead of food, use that information to tweak your marketing. We had to start really paying attention to that video at the bottom of the page that they were watching, right? They're scrolling all the way down to get to the bottom. So that was important for us to pay attention to. Takeaway number three, differentiate offerings. If you're selling two different experiences, make sure that that's clear in the messaging. We definitely, we mumbled or fumbled with the food and the dinner when we were really talking to dinner, but we had lunch in there, we're like, oh, we'll just squeeze it in there. So it didn't have its own experience, right? And then key takeaway number four, build trust early, be transparent about what attendees can expect to reduce those last minute hesitations. We could have been a lot more clear about the location, what it does, and started to really kind of put that information forward. So because people wanted to know, where am I going? What am I coming to? Can I even get to the rooftop? So those were the things that really stood out for us. And that's the key takeaways for turning data into actionable insights. Yay! So hopefully it was a lot of learning for us, but it was good. And this is the way you look at the analytics, and this is the way that you take those data points and move them into actionable insights, right? So thank you so much for joining us. That's what we do here at the show. Let me tell you how you can connect with us here at Your Business in Digital. Again, we bring together a true small business. We have a CFO in the building, sales and pricing in the building, operations and marketing. We want you to tell a CFO, a CMO, a CEO, a business executive, a business owner about this show. We're helping you connect those dots with digital marketing efforts. What does your strategy look like? And how do you get to that place of selling out an event, for instance? How do you understand all the steps that it takes to get people to take that conversion? What are the changes and updates you need to make? And that's what we do here really well at this show. So definitely subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on LinkedIn. We're live there Mondays and Wednesdays. If not, check us out everywhere podcasts are found. We're in those spaces as well, and we look forward to connecting with you. I love doing this show with you guys. This was so much fun. We had such a great time. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys again here late next week. Have a great week, guys. Take care. Bye.